Lesson 5 is on writing and solving linear equations. So we've worked on the writing equations part, we've worked on the solving equations part. So now we're going to put them together and our focus is going to be on angles. So we're going to still apply the same properties that we've been applying to writing equations, looking for hints in the words before we transcribe it or translate it. So we're just going to jump in and we're going to start looking at examples. So one angle is 5 degrees less than 3 times the degree measure of another angle. Together, the angle measures have a sum of 143. What is the measure of each angle? This can seem overwhelming. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot being said. So my advice to you is to try to break it down. Let's take some words out. Here's what I mean. We have one angle and another angle, and together. So that sounds like we have two angles. So I am going to let, this should look familiar, x be the measure. Sorry, this is sloppy. I'm trying to go fast here. Ooh, that's really sloppy. Try this again. Measure of the first angle. Okay, so I'm using x to represent one of the angles. So we know we have two angles here. One angle is 5 degrees less than 3 times the measure of another angle, and together. So angle 1, we say, is going to be x. So what is angle 2? So remember our hint from a few lessons ago. I'm going to say one angle is 5 degrees less than 3 times the degree measure of another angle. Okay, so here's our one angle of another angle, and the other one is 5 degrees less than, remember that's a turnaround one, 3 times the degree measure of x. So what's 3 times x? Well, it's 3x. And what is 5 degrees less than that? Well, less than, turn around, we put the 3x in front, minus 5. This is 5 degrees less than 3 times the measure of another angle. Then we say, together, the angle measures have a sum of 143. So together and sum means add. So I'm basically just going to add these two together. I'm going to say x plus 3x minus 5 equals 143. So this is writing the equation. Now we get into solving it. So remember, the first thing we do to solve is to simplify it. Well, if I have 1x right here, simplify each side, I should say, and 3x's right here, 1x plus 3x's is 4x's. So we have 4x takes care of this and this, minus 5 equals 143. Look here, this is a two-step equation. Two-step equation. These are the ones we were practicing. These are the ones we know how to do. So remember, I'm solving for this 4x. I have to get rid of whatever is being added onto or subtracted from. So if I'm solving for this 4x right here, that means I have to get rid of this minus 5. So I'm going to add 5 onto both sides. This is the same type of two-step equations you've been practicing. So we have 4x, double check to make sure that's 0, equals 143 plus 5, which is 148. Then 4 times what number equals 148? Well, we can undo multiplying by dividing. Divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1x equals 148 divided by 4, which I'll tell you is 37. Always make sure that you are answering the question being asked. What is the measure of each angle? So is 37 our answer if it says what is the measure of each angle? Well, no. We know that x is 37 degrees. That's angle 1. Angle 2 is going to be 3 times whatever x is. Well, it's 37 minus 5. Now, if you were to take a calculator and write that in, you would get 106 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, sorry, I'm again getting sloppy here, is 37, and the measure of angle 2 is 106. We are writing, and then we're solving. Let's look at one more example. Given a right triangle, find the degree measure of the angles if one angle is 10 degrees more than 4 times the degree measure of the other angle, and the third angle is a right angle. Wow, that really can seem confusing. So we're going to start breaking it down. Let's make it less confusing. Let x be the measure of the first angle. Guys, you got to get started somewhere. Okay, don't sell yourself short. You can do this. If this is a right triangle, I know there has to be 3 angles. Angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3. Okay, so just start by things you know. Don't get caught up in all this wordage here. We're saying x is the measure of the first angle. One angle is 10 degrees more than 4 times the degree measure of the other angle. So I'm going to say of x. Okay. 10 degrees more than 4 times the degree measure of x. So again, kind of in this part I bracketed here, work backwards. What's 4 times the degree of x? 4 times x. So we get 4x. And it's 10 degrees more than that. Well, more than means to add. So this is 10 degrees more than 4 times the degree measure of the other angle, which is x. And then the third angle is the right angle. Well, the right angle is 90 degrees. Now, if you look here, it kind of might seem like we're missing some information. But we know this is a right triangle. We know that a triangle, all 3 angles add to 180 degrees. So all 3 of these in a triangle have to add to 180 degrees. So x, or 1x here, plus 4x plus 10 plus 90 equals 180 degrees. Why 180? Because it's a triangle, and all 3 angles in a triangle have to add to 180. Simplify each side of the equal sign. There is nothing to simplify over here, but if I have 1x's and 4x's, that's 5x. If I have 10 and 90, 10 plus 90 is 100. And that has to equal the right side here, which is 180. Once you do that, this is a 2-step equation. So I'm solving for my x term, my 5x. I have to get rid of whatever's being added to or subtracted from. Well, 100's being added to it, so I'm going to get rid of the 100 by subtracting 100 from each side. Because whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. I bring down my 5x. I double check to make sure that gives me 0. 180 minus 100 or plus a negative 100 is just 80. And now we're left with 5 times what number equals 80? Well, since this is multiplying, I can divide. I'm going to divide 5 by 5, which is 1x. And 80 divided by 5, because whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other. 80 divided by 5 is 16. Now, always, guys, and here's my hint, go back to make sure you're answering the question being asked. And the question is, find the degree measure of the angles. So we want to know all 3 of these. Well, x is 16 degrees. Angle number 2 is 4 times 16 plus 10. And if you type that into a calculator, you get 74 degrees. And, well, look, we know that 90 is 90 degrees. So if you add all these together, you get 180 degrees, but this is our degree measure of all 3 angles. So as we work on writing and solving equations, do it step by step. Write the equation first using the hints we've been working on, and then simplify each side of the equal sign, and then go ahead and solve the equation like we've been practicing.